Diet culture has permeated every fiber of my being for as long as I can remember. I've heard that fat is bad, carbs are bad, calories are the only thing that matters, thinness is better, exercise is punishment. These are the kinds of messages that I internalized at a young age, even without anybody in my immediate family explicitly telling me these things. And these are the kinds of messages that I don't want passed on to my own kids. Diet culture creeps in early for kids. Rules about food, guilt around sugar, and labels like good and bad. But in our home, we do things a little bit differently. Today, I'm sharing how we're raising our kids outside of diet culture while still teaching them about health, balance, and enjoying food. And even if you don't have young kids at home, this video is still for you because most of us were once kids shaped by diet culture, and many of us still see little traces of it show up in our daily lives. These are conversations that can help all of us break free from the cycle. Hi, I'm Megan, and welcome back to Small Things Daily. I've lost 125 pounds using compounded tirzepatide and a whole lot of hard work. I've completely changed my eating habits and went from eating out 5 to 7 days a week to eating 99% of the time right here at home, where I make most of our food right here in this kitchen. As a mom, I buy the groceries, I cook most of the meals, and I care about my kids eating well. But I also want them to have a healthy relationship with food. For us, that means no shame, no rigid rules, and no diet culture talk. Just food that fuels us, food that's fun, and habits that make sense for our family. Please take a minute to like this video and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any new videos from my channel. And make sure you stick around to the end of this video to hear how I explained my 125-pound weight loss and the complete transformation of my body to my young kids. So let's talk about our family's food philosophy. It is based on choice and not control. I buy the food and cook most of it, but my kids get to choose what to eat. So we don't do the clean plate club. If you're full, you stop. If you want more, you get more. Food is fuel. We talk about how food gives us energy to do the things we love. For my kids, that's swimming, biking, playing outside. For me, that's working out, playing pickleball, going for a run. We need fuel to have fun. We do talk about how some foods give us more fuel than other foods. Because I've lost 125 pounds, I have had to change some of the foods that I'm eating to work better for my body. I used to be a big believer in eating the same family meal, but I've learned that that doesn't have to be the case. We can still have a healthy relationship with food, knowing that each person at our table has individual needs and might need to eat different things. So if I'm going to cook a meal like pasta, I might choose to cook protein pasta for myself. I might choose a lower carb version that has less energy because I need less energy as a 41-year-old middle-aged woman than my 14-year-old who is about the same size as me needs. She needs more fuel because her body is actually still growing. I, on the other hand, do not need my body to continue to grow. And that is the simple language that I've used to tell my kids about my weight loss journey, that I want to eat in a way to help my body maintain the proper amount of muscle and fat and energy that helps me live the life that I want to live. The way I was eating before was leaving my body with so much extra energy that it was storing as fat, and I was growing and growing. We used to talk about foods in a sense of growing foods and fun foods. And I liked that terminology when my kids were little because they could choose growing foods like broccoli or lettuce or carrots or strawberries, or fun foods like donuts or a piece of chocolate or an ice cream. But I think where that terminology leads us astray is that at some point in your development, for girls when they're maybe around 15 or 16, boys when they're 18, 19, 20, when we stop growing, we don't want our bodies to continue to grow because if we're not growing up, we're growing out. So I quit calling foods growing foods and fun foods at that point when I realized that I was doing a disservice because I also need to eat foods like strawberries and broccoli and lettuce. And I need to eat those healthy foods that are giving me a variety of nutrients and vitamins, but I don't want my body to keep growing. So now we talk about foods in relation to energy and how much energy they're going to be giving us so that we can do the things that we want to do. We also have foods that are purely for fun. When I eat a bowl of ice cream, yeah, it's going to give me a little bit of energy. It's going to give me that sugar rush. My kids definitely know what a sugar rush is, and they've experienced it before. But they know that that kind of energy is not the kind of long-lasting energy that is going to get them through a whole afternoon, that kind of energy is more for fun. And in our family, we try to use fun foods like that as a form of connection. So you won't find any one of us sitting and eating a tub of ice cream by ourselves. If we're going to have ice cream, we're going to have it as a social experience where we're together eating ice cream. We might go to the store and pick out what kind of ice cream we're going to eat, bring it home and eat it. We might go to the yogurt shop that's down the street. We might enjoy a birthday cake at a birthday party. Those are the kinds of experiences that I want my kids to know are totally okay, appropriate, and encouraged. That food is meant to be fun. But if we can pair it with a social experience, it makes it even more enjoyable. We homeschool and my husband works from home, which means we eat 3 meals a day around the table together. And that is another form of social connection that I really want my kids to understand the importance of. That when we're eating, yes, it is fuel for our body, but it can also be a form of fuel for our soul. That just the fact of getting together and sitting at the table and having conversation with others over a meal is so important and is such a big part of the experience of food. Food is a part of our social life. You cannot go to any social function without coming into contact with food. As somebody who's been on a GLP-1 for the past 2 years, I can tell you that in the beginning, that was pretty hard. When I first started compounded tirzepatide, my appetite was really, really suppressed. I could go to a restaurant and even if it was dinner time and I should be ready to eat, I just wasn't hungry. And I have a rule for myself and for my kids that if I'm not hungry, I don't eat. So I did spend a lot of time at restaurants just sitting there while my husband ate or just snacking on a little appetizer while friends had dinner. And I think that learning how to handle food in social circumstances is really important and an important part of developing a healthy relationship with food. Because food is a part of our social life. It's not just a checklist of nutrients. Okay, so let's talk about how this fits into our practical day-to-day life. So all foods can fit into a healthy diet. I know some people are going to come at me for that comment, but I 100% believe that it is true. We can have sugar, we can have carbs, we can have fats, veggies, all of these things. None of these foods are labeled as good or bad in my house. Food is food. And remember that food is fuel. Now, portion sizes and body signals are a big part of that, where we can teach our kids and ourselves to be really in tune with what our body is telling us about what we're eating. Because I'm cooking the food and I'm serving it up on a plate, I always start with a really small portion for all of my kids. Sometimes if I am uncertain of whether they're going to like a food or about where they are in their appetite, we have what we call a toddler portion. And I will serve that to my 14-year-old and say, here's a toddler portion. But then she knows that if she likes it or if she is hungry or if she wants more, she can always go back and get more. But we start with just really small plates with a small amount of food so that we can give our bodies a chance to kind of connect with the food and decide what we're going to be eating. We talk a lot about listening to our hunger and fullness cues. We do try to eat 3 set meals a day. We typically eat around 8 o'clock for breakfast, lunch at 12 o'clock, and dinner at 5 o'clock. But we also want to honor our body and listen to our body. Just because we have those set times doesn't mean that you might not get hungry outside of those times or that you might not be hungry when it comes time for mealtime. And I am really teaching my kids, and I want us all to listen to our bodies so that we can really be in touch with that and be okay with supporting each other when we're off of that schedule. So that means that snacks are available without my kids needing permission. That means that they can get a snack whenever they need one. Now, I have taught my kids that a snack is because you're really hungry. Snacks aren't because you're bored or you're sad or you're supposed to eat one or anything like that. Snacks are because you're hungry. So if we're hungry and we need a snack, I teach my kids to have a 3-part snack. A 3-part snack includes protein, so something like some deli turkey meat or hard-boiled egg, a beef stick, something like that where they're getting a little bit of protein. It also includes produce, so I want them to have some sort of fruit or a vegetable, and that just helps give us extra, that fulfilling part of the snack where you're getting a little bit of volume with it. It also gives extra fiber, so they might do some fresh raspberries or a banana. They might make a little salad even, some celery. They will pick something that can pair with their protein. And then we call the last part of the snack is the fun part of the snack. So this might be something either packaged, like it might be a little package of cheddar bunnies. It might be something like a rice cake. It might be some crackers or some chips, something like that. And this really doesn't have a ton of nutritional value, but it adds to the satisfaction of the snack. And I think making sure that all of your food is satisfying is an underlooked part of eating, that when we're on a weight loss journey especially, we need to be more concerned with that. That yes, we can eat chicken and broccoli all day long and we could never feel satisfied. And not being satisfied can be confused as being hungry. But if you add something to a meal or a snack that is satisfying, it can really round out your plate in the best way. So adding something like rice or potatoes to a meal, or those crackers or chips to a snack, goes a long way. We do try to eat most of our meals at home. My husband and I do go on a weekly date night, and I would say pretty often we go out to eat. It's not every week, but maybe 3 times a month. My kids eat out maybe once or twice a month at this point, and this is such a huge drastic change that I can't overstate, because we were eating out 5 to 7 times a week prior to me losing 125 pounds and getting on this weight loss journey. We were eating out for so many different reasons. They all had to do with me, and it was excuses that I told myself about convenience, or needing to pick something up because we didn't have time to get something else, or that I was just so tired and I felt like we deserved to go out, or because we needed a quick breakfast. There were so many lies that I told myself about why we were eating out so much. But actually, even before I started on a GLP-1, I knew that I had to change that habit, and that changing the way we were eating and starting to eat at home was going to be the biggest driver of my weight loss. So I just made a commitment to eat at home. So we eat at home almost all the time now, but when we go out, I don't have certain rules or any guidelines for my kids to follow. When we go out, they can eat whatever they want. They can order whatever they want from the menu. We can go out for dessert. They're going to enjoy whatever we're eating out completely guilt-free, without me reminding them about eating for fuel or fun foods or growing foods or anything like that. I want them to be able to enjoy their food going out, because again, we're looking at food out as a social experience. It is less about the fuel for our body and more about the social experience at that point. We're going to rely on the other 99% of the time that we're eating our home cooked meals at home to be giving our body the fuel we need. Now, I say that, but I've been so surprised that my kids actually will request eating certain things when we go out. They have learned certain restaurants where they can get kind of the 3-part snack idea in a meal that feels good to them. So places like Chipotle or Cava or Sweet Green, where you're able to get like a build your own bowl where they can get that satisfying carb and potatoes or rice or farro or whatever. Then they can get some vegetables and some protein with some sort of delicious sauce on it. All of my kids like those kinds of restaurants. Now, that is not to say that they do not just order chicken tenders and fries or a hamburger at some places, because they absolutely do. And to be honest, when we go to restaurants, that's often what me and my husband are ordering too, because we don't go out very often. We go out so little that it's nice to just splurge a little. And of course, the portion sizes that I'm eating are so much smaller than what I was eating before. So I might eat a whole hamburger, but half the fries, or I might eat half the hamburger and all of the fries. But I just kind of let my body guide me, and so that I'm making decisions that feel right for myself, where I'm not overindulging. And I think that's an important lesson to teach kids too, is to stay in touch with their fullness cues when you're at a restaurant, because the portion sizes that are served are so much larger. My kids are pretty used to sharing plates at this point, and I think that is a great habit to start early, but it's not one that I want to push on my kids. I do remember when I did Weight Watchers years ago, that was one of the tips and tricks that they gave you, was to go to a restaurant and order your to-go box when you ordered your meal, so that you could box up half your food and put it in the box and take it home. While that sounds like a good idea, and yes, it could keep you from eating all of your food and keep your calories down so that you can lose weight, doing that really takes away staying in touch with your hunger and fullness cues. I want to let my body guide me. There are some days where I might want to eat my whole plate. There are some days where I might not need to eat the whole plate. So I think it is a better tool to listen to our bodies versus doing something standard like that and saying, I'm only going to eat half the plate. So with my kids, there are 3 of them. There's one of me and my husband. So if we go out, like all 5 of us, we might order an appetizer and 2 meals and we all share it. But again, my kids know that if somebody's still hungry, we could always order something else. We can order an extra salad or something. Sometimes I do order like an extra vegetable just so that we have a little bit extra. And I think eating in that way is really important for kids to learn early on, because they learn that just because you order one big meal doesn't mean you have to eat that whole meal. Being able to share with a friend or being able to eat half of it and take it home. All of those are good options. And I think we need all of the options when we're trying to make our way in a world without these rigid diet culture rules. Another thing that I like to stress with my kids is that each of us eats in a way that works for our body, and each of us is going to have different needs. There isn't one perfect diet that is going to work for everybody. And while I really want my kids to internalize this and know this, it's something that I really wish more adults knew too. I think so many of us spend so much time searching for the perfect diet, the one that's going to do the trick and be the thing that works for us. And the truth is there are so many ways of eating that could work for us. And there isn't a perfect diet. It's not keto. It's not carnivore. It's not low carb. It's not being vegan or vegetarian. Whatever works for you and your lifestyle and your personal needs is the best diet for you. I think this is so important because I have posted videos of food here on this channel or on other social media, and I always get comments from people with their judgments about food. Now, I'm putting myself out there, and your comments are totally welcome. And the bigger problem is the sentiment behind the comments, that some people think that there is one superior way of eating. And that's just not the case. So while yes, I might be eating frozen mango from a bag and you think that packaged foods are bad, packaged foods aren't bad because there is no good and bad. Food has no morality. My brother is vegan and he is a staunch vegan and very passionate about what he eats. He can choose to eat the way he eats and I can choose to eat the way that I want to eat. I do the very best I can. I've had my own chickens and I felt really comfortable eating the eggs from my chickens because I knew that my chickens had names and I was taking care of my chickens and they were gifting me these eggs every single day. And even that wasn't a good enough reason for him to eat the eggs from my chickens, but I felt really comfortable with that. I don't have chickens anymore. We moved to a regular suburban neighborhood, so I buy my eggs at the grocery store. Again, we're all just kind of doing the best we can with the knowledge we have, the resources we have, and that is going to make the way that we eat look a little different from everybody. I had one of my videos, I posted a salmon bowl, some salmon with rice, and I got a comment on there that the rice was so bad for your blood sugar. And I think that this is another reason why we all just kind of need to stay in our own lane. I have worn a continuous glucose monitor for many months and did so much testing on my own body to see which foods work for my body and which foods don't, and how to make certain foods work for my body. So white rice is something that I enjoy eating. It is a carb that is really satisfying. It is filling and just makes my meals feel more complete when I have a little bit of white rice with them. I detest brown rice. I don't know why. I do not like the flavor of it. I hate cooking it. It takes so much longer and I just don't like the way it tastes. I'm not going to eat brown rice. I would rather eat no rice than brown rice. So while some people say that brown rice is better for your blood sugar, I wanted to test out white rice. So I wore my continuous glucose monitor and tested it out. Here's the interesting thing. White rice spikes a lot of people's blood sugar and makes their blood sugar go really high and stay elevated for a longer amount of time than it should. For me, white rice is not a problem as long as I'm pairing my white rice with a protein and some vegetables and keeping it to a reasonable amount. I usually eat like about 1/3 a cup of white rice, so it's not a huge amount, and my blood sugar will have a gentle rise as it should after you eat, and then it comes right back down. I have no problem tolerating white rice, which is good for me because I like it. So I can incorporate it into my diet and it's no problem. Maybe for you, white rice is a problem and you might have to find workarounds. So some people say if you refrigerate your white rice and then reheat it and then eat it, that it lowers the glycemic index of it. Some people choose to go with brown rice. Some people only can have a small amount of it. You'll have to find what works for you. But for me, I'm going to eat my white rice and I'm going to enjoy it. And somebody commenting on my video that white rice is bad for you is just untrue. It's just not true because I have proof that it works for my body via a continuous glucose monitor. And even if I didn't have that, I can go by things like how I feel. Do I have energy or do I experience that crash after it? So for me, I have foods that my body doesn't choose to tolerate well. And those are going to be different foods than the foods that your body doesn't tolerate well. So I have to avoid those foods in a way that somebody else might not have to, even if they are considered healthy foods. Along those same lines, we have a lot of different things that affect what we can eat. Things like food allergies. I'm allergic to pistachios, so I can't eat pistachios. That doesn't mean that pistachios are bad. They can totally be part of a healthy diet, not in my house, because I would have to go to the hospital. I'd have to use my EpiPen. So for me, I don't eat pistachios. My oldest daughter had a wheat allergy, and a lot of people deal with things like celiac. So you might hear like whole wheat flour is better for you than white flour. Well, if you have a wheat allergy, that whole wheat flour is not healthy for you. That will cause you a lot of problems. For my daughter, it would send her to the hospital. She had a wheat allergy. If you have celiac, that could mean days of inflammation and pain and lingering effects from this supposedly good, healthy food. A lot of us who are on this GLP-1 journey and trying to lose weight are dealing with insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. If you have type 2 diabetes, you're going to be working with your doctor and hopefully with a registered dietitian to figure out the diet that's going to work for you to manage your diabetes. You can't eat the same way that my 11-year-old boy eats and expect your body to process it in the same way. Something in your body is off, and you're going to have to figure out how to eat to make your body function in the very best way possible. With all of these special considerations, what I want to impart on my kids is that we have to reserve judgment. We don't get to judge what other people are eating or how they are eating because it is so personal. And I want them to know that there can be so many different ways to get to the final outcome that we're all reaching for, which is health. And being healthy comes in so many flavors that we don't have to pigeonhole ourselves into one way or say my way is the best way, because there can be so many roads that lead to that final destination. Another diet culture myth that I want to leave behind when it comes to raising my kids is the way that exercise is connected with food. I know that for me, for much of my life, exercise was a punishment. It was needing to go for a run because I had pizza the night before. It was eating a piece of cake and then needing to go and work out. It was doing my Zumba class so that I could go out with friends. And while exercise has so many benefits and is so good for your total body health, and it's something I am a firm believer in, that exercise actually has very little to do with weight loss and your body's ability to process the food you're eating. So the very best way to manage your weight or manage how much extra food is stored in your body as fat is going to be by managing the food that's going in your mouth. So for me, during my weight loss phase, I looked at my food intake as a 90% of the challenge. And then exercise was just like that little extra 10%. I will say that once I got closer to my goal weight, exercise did play a bigger part in it because I was building more muscle. And once you have muscle, it does help your metabolism because your body is constantly burning more energy. So it is easier to be able to eat more calories and maintain a smaller body when you have more muscles. But during the bulk of my weight loss phase, I did not focus on exercise. I did not add back in calories to like my target calories. If I said, okay, I'm going to go for a run so I can eat 400 more calories. No, I didn't do any of that. I just exercised because I wanted to. I exercised because it gives me energy. I exercise because it's fun if I'm doing it with friends, things like playing pickleball or going for a hike with friends, or walking in the neighborhood with someone, or walking every day with my husband. Those are the kinds of things where I'm pairing exercise with a social activity, and it just makes it where it's enhancing my life. So exercise is no longer something we're doing to work off food or punish ourselves for bad behavior, but it's something that's really adding to our life and making it more enjoyable. And my kids know, and I have learned, that we exercise not to burn off food, but we exercise to be strong. And that takes me into the last point that I want to make sure that my kids know, that thin does not equal healthy. If you ever open the pages of a 17 magazine as a teenager like I did, you knew that thinness was the ideal. It was what we were aiming for. And I do not want to pass that message along to my kids. I have been thin in my adult life, and I am at a smaller weight now than I ever have been before, but I am actually in a bigger body than I was when I was thin previously. It's because now I have a lot of muscle. I have a muscular, athletic build. So instead of wearing like extra small everything, I wear size medium tops because I have broad shoulders and big muscles on my arms, and they don't fit in extra small armholes. And I am 100% okay with that. I actually prefer to be in this strong, healthy body than a tiny waif body that wasn't serving me the way that I want this body to serve me now. But the key point is that we really have no idea what's going on inside a person's body. So just like I want my kids to reserve judgment on what's on somebody's plate, I also want them to reserve judgment on what a person's outward appearance looks like. The only people who know what's going on inside a person's body is that person and their doctor when they've looked at lab work or run tests or things like that. And again, that's just going to be a personal decision that somebody has to make with their doctor to see if they need to make changes for that body or if that body is actually healthy. And there really is no way to know from the outside. So instead of aiming for thin, we're aiming for strong and healthy. That I want to live a long, healthy life, be able to move in the ways that I want to move for a long time, for many decades. I'm already planning for my grandchildren one day to be able to lift them up and take them on trips and carry our luggage and things like that. And to do that, we have to start early and as early as we can. It's never too late to start, but we have to start by training our bodies and making sure that we're able to do things. So doing things like cardio to make sure our heart's in shape, making sure we're lifting weights so that we can lift things up, making sure we're doing functional movements like lunging and squats, because those are going to help us with our day-to-day living. At the end of the day, our kids are learning what we model for them. If we show them that food can be fun and nourishing and a great way to get energy to live the life that we want to live, it is a message that they will hopefully take with them as they encounter different things in their life and hopefully have a healthier mindset than many of us had growing up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but hopefully they're seeing some sense of balance and no longer seeing rigid rules. Now, all of this sounds great, except for the big elephant in the room, that I decided that I was not happy with the body that I was in. In August 2023, I took a big step and started taking compounded tirzepatide so that I could change not just the way I looked, but how I felt and how my body was functioning from the inside out. I have completely changed on the outside and on the inside in these 2 years. And that's something that kids absolutely notice too. My youngest is 8 years old and she'll see pictures of 2 years ago and she will notice things and look, wow, you looked a little different back then. And I don't want to sweep it under the rug or hide this fact from them, even though we have so many conversations about body positivity and accepting people for who they are and not making judgments on people based on how they look. But for me, I wanted to change. It was a personal decision. It was nobody on the outside telling me that I needed to change. And so what I share with my kids is that I wanted to be healthier and I wanted to make sure that I was healthy from the inside out. So they know all about me wearing my continuous glucose monitor. They know about sugars and they know about carbs being energy because they know that I might be doing things a little bit differently so that I can take care of my body in the best way that I know how. I explain that bodies change a lot over the course of a lifetime, especially if you have kids, you are getting pregnant, you are losing the weight. I mean, I have gained and lost over 50 pounds so many times just from pregnancy. And our bodies change as we get older. You have different things happening. And this is one change that I am so glad that I was able to make for myself. And instead of focusing on the weight loss, I focus on the things that I've gained. I have gained so much more energy to be able to run around with them. I have gained strength, and I have gained so much more confidence just in the way that I feel and that I move in the world, that it has absolutely benefited my entire family to be on this journey with me, because I am a more healthy, complete person now that I have made this transformation. Instead of focusing on the weight loss, I focus on the habits, on eating in a way that is nourishing my body, moving my body in a way that keeps me going and strengthens me, and listening to my own body's needs without labeling anything as good or bad or having rigid rules that are controlling my life. And that is the real message that I hope my kids hear, that we can take charge of our own lives and do what's best for ourselves, and that it's never too late for growth, healing, and self-care. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear how you approach food in your family. Drop a comment below, share your experience, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips on health and living life outside the diet culture mindset.